Welcome to PCN Life, our new break-off show where we bring you deeper into local stories from our communities. This week we have another great installment of Mindful Moments, as well as local musician Alicia Shanahan-Belisle on the set.
We bring you our next installment of Spend the Day, and this week we spend the day in Duxbury.
Health and Wellness takes us to the Kingsbury Club for information on how important youth exercise is, and Save the Date brings us October happenings. But tonight we start things off with our third installment of Day in the Life, where we get a look at some of the things folks can do from morning to night in the South Shore towns that we cover here at PACTV. Brian, how is that going so far?
I got to tell you, the whole experience has been a blast. You know, even though the stories are only 8 to 10 minutes long, when I'm out there and we've got the crew out there for hours, we're meeting all kinds of cool people with great stories to tell, and it's almost like we don't have enough time to tell all of them, but they're giving us great ideas for future stories to cover if they don't make it into these segments.
So where does it take us this week, Brian?
We are heading into Duxbury. Here on the South Shore, the town of Duxbury certainly marches to the beat of its own drum. Depending on which way you enter, you might be greeted by a 9-foot-tall metal dragon, or come across a tiny neighborhood that has a name that sounds like it belongs in Santa's village. You'll see some famous names and some that are lesser known, yet they all had a major impact in shaping the town that we know as Duxbury. The town is sometimes referred to as the first suburb of Plymouth. It was settled in 1624 and incorporated not too long after in 1637. Nowadays, over 15,000 people call the town of Duxbury home. White-collar workers outnumber blue-collar workers 3-1, and unaffiliated voters make up 56% of the electorate. So if you're planning on running for office, you need to court that independent vote. But no matter which way you vote or what you do for work, we all need to start the day with breakfast. And we've got just the place for that in the center of town. Heading through Hall's Corner, you'll find the Foodsmith, being run by two unlikely restaurateurs. Both are former columnists for two of the state's most highly circulated newspapers. Laura Raposa, who dished gossip with the Boston Herald, and Steve Sire, who wrote a business column with the Globe. Since opening in August of 2015, this husband and wife team now find themselves dishing out breakfast sandwiches and running a business that's managed to stay hot through all 4 seasons.
We've been a full year. We've experienced our first Duxbury summer, which was incredible, and we're just so grateful that people found us and have supported us, you know, actually during the winter and summer. I mean, we were very happy, and we've got a bunch of core regulars that are here every day, and they were here during the snow and the rain and of the winter, and it's just been terrific.
If you want to stick around and eat, there are several window seats, or you can people watch from right here at the street level. But with so much to do and so many places to see in this town, it's no wonder why so many get their food to go. Unsure of where to go? A great place to start is right here at the Standish Monument. Even if you don't go up the tower, there are picnic tables here at the lower parking lot where you can eat that on-the-go breakfast and come up with some ideas. The monument itself stands at 116 feet tall, is capped off by a 14-foot-tall statue of Miles Standish, and serves as a lookout over the entire town. And if this looks like a complex structure, your eyes aren't fooling you. They began construction on this in 1872 and didn't finish building it until 1898, some 26 years later. The untrained eye won't notice the 3 different types of granite they used, but you will see the names of all 6 New England states over the archway. If you want to take a tour, though, you'll have to do it on the weekend during the summer months. Those who do go to the top may be inspired by what they see across the harbor, Duxbury Beach. It's here that you'll find 5 miles of some of the finest sand and surf on the South Shore. While the summer months easily bring in the biggest crowds, don't be too quick to discount the off-season months. There's enough beauty and serenity here to last from September to May. And one way to get to the beach is to drive over a Guinness Book World Record holder. At nearly a mile in length, the Powder Point Bridge is the longest wooden bridge this side east of the Mississippi. But right now, let's head to a spot that you may not have seen from high atop Standish Monument. It's on the side of the road in North Duxbury that you'll find the Lansing-Bennett Forest, all 344 acres of it. Formerly known as the Trout Farm, this parcel of land was dedicated to the memory of Dr. Lansing Bennett, who served as chair of the town's Conservation Commission from 1967 to 1979, and he helped to secure over 1,200 acres of conservation land, as well as pass the Wetlands and Watershed Protection Bylaw. So what does all of that mean? Well, if you look at this map here, you'll see lots of square and rectangular shaped spots indicated by different shades of blue. Those spots represent all of the land in Duxbury that won't be developed, and it's a lot of land. And Trout Farm, now known as Lansing Bennett Forest, was one of his most satisfying land acquisitions. To get here, just take exit 11 off Route 3, then take a left onto Route 14 West. From there, you'll bear left at King Philip's Path, and then follow it straight to Union Bridge, where you'll turn right. We were hoping to see some bogs though, so we headed over to North Hill Marsh on Mayflower Road. And if it looks like you're driving through the North Country in New Hampshire, you're probably in the right spot. These trails are great for hiking, biking, taking the dog, or just getting lost in nature. But to keep yourself from getting actually lost, keep your eyes open for the markings on the trees as you go. We were also told that if we kept the pond to our right this whole way, we'd eventually reach the cranberry bogs. Hopefully. And there does appear to be a light at the end of this pathway. For a minute there, I was afraid I was having my own Blair Witch Project moment, but I did find my way to the old cranberry bogs, and I'm told that once you get to this point, you're about 3/4 of the way around the trail. Honestly, there are enough trails in this area to keep you busy for the entire day. Unfortunately, we don't have all day. We're heading to the other side of town now to find a spot where you can take your kayak out. Kayak, rowboat, or swim. Just don't think about launching a motorized boat here. Ellison Beach, or Shipyard Lane Beach as it's known by locals, is the place to do all of those things. And if these kayaks lined up over here are any indication, then it would appear that folks in town are doing these activities with great frequency. And who can argue with the peace and serenity that this spot has to offer? For something a little more lighthearted though, head down the road to Bluefish Bridge. You can take your sea vessel out here as well, but when the tide is high, jumping off the bridge seems to be the order of the day. This guy here might be the coolest dad in the world. In fact, it might be difficult not to join in on the fun that these folks are having. I call this my diving ball. It's my cross between a dive and cannonball, and it always manages to keep me from hitting the bottom. You know, safety first. But if you're looking to do something a little drier, some arts and culture might be right up your alley. They're on full display Wednesday through Sunday at the Duxbury Art Complex Museum. Now in its 45th year, the museum has been serving the public with art exhibits, music, and on certain Sundays, one in June, July, and September, you can view a traditional Japanese tea ceremony. Along the walkway, you may even notice many of the Asian plantings and sculptures. The tea hut itself, named Wind in the Pines, was originally constructed in Japan in 1969 and reassembled here in Duxbury just in time for the first of these ceremonies in 1975. And the culture isn't just for the adults in the area.
We also do tea for the third grade of the Duxbury schools, and they do their performances in May. We have all 260 kids come down, and 2 groups one day and 2 groups the second day. And they remember, these kids remember they've been here. I've seen people years later and they say, oh, that's the place where the tea house was.
And if you're interested in touring some historic homes, the Duxbury Rural and Historical Society is always welcoming visitors. Check out the famous King Caesar House, which overlooks beautiful Duxbury Bay. It's here that they host the annual croquet tournament and Christmas party, among other events. Or you can go to the Historical Society's home office on Washington Street at the Nathaniel Windsor Jr. House, where they launch several of their walking tours from this gorgeous veranda out back. And if you're feeling a little adventurous, perhaps you can venture over to a part of town named for the workers that settled this area in 1757. A tinker was a person who traveled to different places and made a living fixing small items like pots and pans using hand tools. The original tinker to settle here on what is now known as Elm Street was a shoemaker named Jeremiah Dillingham. His settling here paved the way for other tinkers to follow suit, and they created their own section of town. The classic New England feel in this neighborhood is hard to ignore. From the old wooden fences, to stone retainer walls, to the barns behind many of the homes, which actually served as the workplaces for the tinkers when they inhabited this area. Years later, the barn on Steve Burrell's property was the original home of the Duxbury Clipper. The neighborhood may be small. In fact, someone we passed said, if you blink, you'll miss it. But for the folks that have lived here for decades, it's right where they want to be.
A lot of times, politicians, when they're running for office, they talk about family values and neighborhoods. It is kind of fascinating to actually live in one, where people really care about each other. If my dog got lost, there's a good chance, and he did sometimes, there's a good chance that somebody would find him and bring him back. I've never had a desire to move away from it, just because of the sort of wonderful neighborly kinds of things that happen here, and people just really caring about each other and each other's families.
While many of this area's customs from 250 years ago have fallen by the wayside, there is one relatively new tradition that continues to this day, and it draws spectators from far and wide. It's known as the Night of Luminaries, and it happens every Christmas Eve. The residents of Tinkertown line the edges of their front lawns with candles in white bags, and it illuminates all of the streets in the neighborhood. It's really a sight to behold. Okay, right about now is probably time we start thinking about grabbing something to eat, but first, I gotta change this shirt. Okay, that's better. Let's go grab some dinner. The 1803 Windsor House Inn on Washington Street has a great combination of fine dining with a relaxed atmosphere, from the cozy bar at the entrance to the spacious seating outdoors on the patio as well as the backyard. On a busy night, the kitchen turns out anywhere from 180 to 200 plates, and most of it is locally sourced, like these oysters. And if you like fresh produce, look no further than the backyard garden. Here you'll find several types of tomatoes, peppers, root vegetables, and spinach, just to name a few.
I think people these days are looking for a more natural, healthy way of eating, and I think that the farm to fork or farm to table is the new trend that everybody wants to go at. So it's important for us to be able to give the opportunity to our guests that satisfaction, because it really speaks volumes when it comes to cooking all the food and keeping up with everything that is going on.
And of course, the Windsor House is also an inn, meaning that if you enjoy too many spirits with your dining, you might be able to stay in one of the luxurious suites upstairs. Just not on this night, because all of the rooms were already booked. That gave us a chance to make one more stop on our way out of town. Farfar's Danish Ice Cream on St. George Street seems like one of those places you'd find in a brochure of places you'd have to go to if you're in the town of Duxbury. So I guess it was a good idea that we eventually stopped here. The business has been here since 1979, but aside from the owners, you won't find anyone working here that was even born then. In fact, these kids are so young, they weren't even born when the song 1979 by the Smashing Pumpkins came out, and that was 1995. But that's par for the course for the youth movement at Farfar's. It's almost like a rite of passage to work here if you're a kid from Duxbury. Whether it's making the ice cream or scooping it out to the customers that can't seem to get enough of its rich, creamy goodness. As evidenced by the banners on the ceiling of the colleges attended by past and present employees, it's safe to say that the kids are all right.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun working here in high school. You always see your teachers coming in after school, or some coaches or sports teams, and it's kind of cool getting to say hi to people that you know and getting to make ice cream for them. It's just kind of fun. I want someone to walk out the door thinking they tasted something unlike something they've ever tasted before. Just the best ice cream they've ever had.
Oh, banana ice cream. That is pretty awesome. See, I learned my lesson from the last time. If you're shooting a segment where you're eating ice cream, put it in a cup. That way it doesn't melt all over your hands. So our day in the life in the town of Duxbury has come to an end, and I still feel like there's stuff we need to see. So that just means we'll have to come back at another date. Reporting for PCN Life in Duxbury, I'm Brian Sullivan.
We are so pleased to have Leslie Cutler back with another Mindful Moments segment. Welcome, Leslie.
Thank you, Julie. It's
Great to have you back.
Thank you, and it's wonderful to be here.
And today you've selected the subject of mindfulness.
Yes.
So what exactly is mindfulness?
Well, that's a great question. I think it's something that's frequently misunderstood. So it's really about paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the moment, non-judgmentally. It's a daily ritual that, when done regularly, can be the ultimate challenge, but it's a different way of living, of seeing, of being with ourselves. So it's being aware of what's happening in the present moment, not wishing for that to change. And also being able to enjoy each pleasant experience and remain in it, not trying to hold on to it, as well as the negative, believing that, yes, you can experience something negative, but you're not stuck in it forever. So it started as this buzz in Silicon Valley, and everybody kind of thought it would be something that would quickly pass, but it really is something that's here to stay. And most of us think of mindfulness practice within the context of meditation, but this is not necessarily so.
Right. So when you said the most important thing is to be in the moment, it's so hard for most people to not just be looking forward. What do I have to do next? I have to pick up the kids. I have to do this. I have to go to work. So how do I use mindfulness in my life? Or how do you speak to people? How do they use it in your life?
Right, and that's a really good point. And everybody has excuses as to why that they can't do. Oh, I've got ADHD. My life is like in triage mode. And I can be present in some way and I can be aware. Is that the same as mindfulness? But it's very important to note that mindfulness and awareness are two different things.
Okay.
So I know that I'm here speaking with you in this moment, but it's not the same as being mindful as to how I'm speaking with you.
Okay.
So it's a different level of it. And it's interesting because mindfulness has been shown to really help a lot of health conditions as well, specifically anxiety and depression. See, what happens when we're in this state of stress all the time?
Right.
We become hyper aware.
Yes.
All the time. We're simply reacting to whatever's getting thrown at us, and everything is kind of on hyper alert. We are not meant to live this way.
Okay.
And I know a lot of us do, and I'm guilty of it as well.
Right.
I mean, I think we all have moments like this. But what mindfulness allows us to do is to go back and kind of self-regulate our emotions a little bit, to be aware and to maybe stop some of these unhealthy patterns that are continuing.
Okay, so you have 5 ways of incorporating it into our daily lives.
Yes.
And number 1 is practice mindfulness in the mundane. What does that mean?
Well, I think this is really probably a great starting place for a lot of people. Like we were saying, life is stressful and, we have these massive to-do lists every day, but maybe just stepping back and trying to find gentle ways of connecting with those that we love. Maybe perhaps, looking for a way that we might help another person or practice love and kindness in a way that might be beneficial to all. Most of us travel through life in autopilot and really don't get a chance to make some of those changes that we want to do.
Could it be as simple as just getting in the habit of waving someone in front of you when you're at a 4-way stop?
Yes.
I mean, that's the kind of thing. It's just the mundane.
Yes.
It's something that you just, like you said, it's a habit. You have to practice it and do it.
You just have to practice it and do it.
Okay, you're going to do number 2.
Number 2 is practice not living in the future or in the present.
Which is what we were talking about.
And
right.
it's exactly what we're talking about. And where we all struggle. There's a reason why the past is history. And not that we can't take those lessons from the past and incorporate them into our daily lives, but when we find ourselves slipping back there and getting stuck, that's when we need to bring ourselves back to the moment. And also, in retrospect, it's great to have goals, to be thinking about the future, what we want to do, how we want to be, how we hope to, grow and that sort of thing. And that's crucial too. But again, remaining in the present, not getting caught up about what's in front of us or stuck in what's behind us.
Right, so remaining in the present. And that's got to be a really hard thing to train your head and your heart and your mind to do.
Yes.
It's hard, right?
It is.
And again,
It's
this
a
is a habit.
challenge.
This is something you have to practice constantly.
You're very, very right.
Okay, so number 3, practice.
Yes.
Sitting with the feeling. What does that mean? Practice sitting with the feeling.
Well, this is something I work with my clients with on a regular basis because, it's so intolerable to sit with our feelings at times. And mindfulness isn't about, kind of being happy-go-lucky and, Susie Sunshine all the time, but it's really about learning to sit with what is, holding complex feelings, not trying to change them, but just learning to be at peace and to sit with them. And I know that that's incredibly, incredibly difficult. And again, a lot of this, sounds simple in the way that we're talking about it, but when it comes to practicing it in our lives, it is quite challenging.
Can you give me an example of sitting with your feelings?
I see this a lot in grief work. I don't think that our society gives a lot of space to grieving because it's intolerable. We all know that at some point in our lives it's going to come up.
Right.
So being able to sit with a friend who's crying and wailing and being able to tolerate that level of emotion in them as well as ourselves in our own grieving.
Okay, that makes sense. So number 4, you had...
Practice mindful listening. And again,
That's
something
hard.
we all struggle with.
Because I was thinking of the next thing I was going to say. I'm not listening to you.
And I'm building my argument.
Yes, I'm building my case.
Yes, and we all do this. But again, another act of love and kindness is to really pay deep attention. And this is where you can practice it in your job, in at home, really truly listening to what a person's saying, not trying to counteract them, not judging them in your mind, but not just listening, but truly hearing them. And in doing this, they'll appreciate it.
Right.
It's an act of kindness. And then hopefully in return, they'll do the same for you as well.
Now, do you clarify and confirm what they said to you? Is that an important part of listening? Because you can nod your head and
Right.
say, oh, I hear you. But is it a good idea to get into the habit of to feed it back to them? If I heard you, you're saying this. Is that right?
You're so right with that.
Okay.
And I do a lot of that in couples counseling too. That works very well within the context of relationships because
Sure.
we all want to be heard and understood.
Right.
Truly, at the end of the day. And so by coming back and sort of reframing it for them is crucial.
Okay. And your last thing is to practice self-observation.
Right.
Ooh.
And again, this is a challenge as well, but really just kind of, noticing, oh my goodness, I'm not being mindful in this moment, which means you really are being mindful. You're bringing yourself back. It's a way of stepping back from your thoughts, being a conscious observer, seeing them and be able to notice them, perhaps noticing the place where the thoughts are repetitive or compulsive in a way, as a way of finding a new way of being with them and perhaps doing them in a different way. And these are all ways that mindfulness can assist us.
So it's like if you do something or you react to something, it's saying, okay, I didn't handle that well, or I don't like how I did that, or I could have
Yes.
done that differently?
Yes.
Is that
That's
part of it?
exactly it. And as well as compulsive thoughts too. Geez, I keep finding myself reviewing this again and again and again. But this is something I can't change. And then kind of incorporating in what you said.
Right.
But going forward, I can look at this in a different way.
Right.
And so it really does help break some of these destructive patterns
Right.
that we all find ourselves stuck in from time to time.
It's almost framing your thoughts.
Exactly.
Being in charge of framing your thoughts.
Yes.
Okay. Mindfulness.
Mindfulness.
Another wonderful segment that will help us, but again, something we have to practice.
Something we have to practice
we have
every
to do
day.
this. We thank Leslie Cutler so much for being with us today. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Our health and wellness segment brings us to Kingston's Kingsbury Club to learn the importance of youth exercise.
Hi, I'm Lacey Pastizzi, and this is your PCN Life, Health, and Wellness segment. And today we're talking about youth fitness. So when we're thinking about youth fitness, it's actually a building block to help young people develop maturity-wise further on in life. It gives them a lot of tools for problem-solving situations and for being a more successful adult and adolescent even. A lot of times it incorporates just general health and getting out there, getting exercise. It'll help regulate your sleep. It'll help make, kids a lot healthier. It gives them confidence. It's a great social outlet in that they're making new friends and also including their friends in maybe some cool hobbies and some cool activities that they haven't done before. It can also help them with goal setting. At the beginning of class, there's an idea where we can test them at the beginning of the term, and then we'll go through the entire semester and then basically retest. And I bet at the end of the semester, almost all of them will have a better test score in that they'll be running faster, jumping higher, going further, doing better push-ups, better sit-ups, helping them with their form, that kind of thing. It's also a really great way to have them interacting with an authority figure as well. So it's somebody that they're learning to work with in terms of thinking about later on in life, they're going to have a boss and they're going to be working with, problem solving, games, all kinds of stuff like that. It's a good idea to incorporate a reward system. Great idea is to have some sort of a program chart or maybe a program book, and they can chart their process as to what they've accomplished each day. Did they go out for a run? Did they play some soccer? Did they go walk the dog? Did they go extra hard in recess? Did they learn to properly do bench press? Did they learn to properly squat? Did they, learn to work as a team? Did they make new friends? All of this stuff is very helpful. Thanks for watching. This has been your PCN Life, Health, and Wellness segment.
Hi, and welcome to PCN Life Save the Date. October is when the fall really kicks into high gear, and PCN Life has some festive, pumpkin spice, spooky fun for everyone this month. The South Shore Folk Music Club will be featuring Ellis Paul Saturday, October 1st at 8 p.m. Ellis Paul, known for his lush, emotional lyrics and artful guitar playing, is sure to be a crowd pleaser. As Ellis Paul is a personal favorite, this concert is highly recommended. Saturday, October 8th, the Jones River Historical Society will be holding their first annual barn dance at the Bradford House in Kingston. If fall is your season, then a barn dance is a must. Reservations need to be made by October 4th with the Jones River Village Historical Society. Skipping ahead a little bit, if spooky is what your October is all about, the Pembroke Library will be hosting Emmy Award-winning folklorist John Horrigan on Thursday, October 20th at 6:30 p.m. John will be leading a spooky and amusing talk about the paranormal. This event is appropriate for all ages. October 22nd, Duxbury will be the town to start Halloween on the right foot with 2 scary and festive events. The Alden House will be holding their annual Haunted House. This crowd-pleasing, all-ages event is celebrating its 15th year and is not to be missed. During this event, the Alden House Historic Site will undergo a transformation for some good old-fashioned Halloween fun. The King Caesar House will also be holding a spirited event from 5 to 6:30 p.m. with historian Patrick Brown. Brown will be giving a special candlelight tour of the house, and registration is currently open. A little history by candlelight could be just the thing to get your imagination buzzing this season. And last but not least, on Halloween Day, be sure to head downtown Plymouth for the Chamber of Commerce's Halloween on Main Street. Downtown stores open their doors for trick-or-treaters from 2 to 6 p.m. It all begins with fun activities at Memorial Hall. More to come next month with Thanksgiving on the way. Thanks for tuning in to Save the Date October. I'm Maureen Bates for PCN Life.
Our arts and entertainment section brings you a local musician, singer-songwriter, Alicia Shanahan-Belisle. Take it away, Alicia.
How did it start? Why did it start? How can you bear it? How do people live in this twisted world? Jump in and learn to wet your feet. Don't have time to dwell. Jump in and feel the hurt inside and the burn you know so well. Jump up your high horse once and stop. Mark my words, you never stop. How can people be so harsh and cruel? How do we deal
That was pretty awesome, wasn't it?
Thank you so much.
Alicia Shanahan-Belisle, welcome to the show. And
Thank you for having me.
So I'm listening right now, and I'm hearing some rock and roll. We get a lot of, folksy Americana, but what are we talking about for influences for you?
I'm a fun combination. Growing up, I was a huge No Doubt fan. Old school No Doubt, mixed with some Ani DeFranco. Not gonna lie, there was Little Hanson mixed in there growing up.
Kids listen to Hanson.
I'm a child of the 90s. But just a good mixture. I like songwriting, I like stories. I like a song that has a story to it. So.
Right on. So how'd you end up here? Where are you from?
I am from Lunenburg, Massachusetts, so a little bit of ways from here. So grew up, born and raised in Lunenburg, and my wife actually is a teacher out here. So she moved out here, and I followed suit. So I figured let's expand. The South Shore has always been of interest to me. So I'm like, well, let's try it out. And been here, I think 7 or 8 years, and I don't think I'm ever leaving. Love it here.
No kidding. Yeah, it's pretty nice here on the East Coast.
Yes.
So when you're out there playing, I'm guessing you do a lot of like club, you're doing the circuit. What's that like for kind of like the local touring musician? How do you keep, the energy going? What lights your fire when you're out there?
Talking to people. I mean, I really love, nothing to me is better than playing a song and then seeing someone's reaction, realizing like you're bringing back a memory from 20 years ago or 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. And when someone comes up and like, I really love your version of Bobby McGee or whatever. And it makes you feel good. It makes the long hours, just the day job plus the night job.
But there's a day job too? You're not a full-time musician?
No, I'm not. I do marketing by day, and by night I'm playing out. But honestly, this is my release. This is my being able to really enjoy myself and enjoy everybody around me.
Well, I hope you're marketing yourself.
I try.
Yeah,
I definitely try.
Well, it's been great having you on. Thank you so much for coming on this afternoon.
Thank you.
PCN Life, thanks for watching. Our website, you can go to the website and we have links to each story, and you can find us on YouTube. We want to ask Alicia if she can play one more song to close us out, and we'll see you next time on PCN Life.
Today is the day, a new day in full bloom. Today is the day